everybody, this is Boy, and I'm going to be doing my top 10 movies that disappointed me in 2019. Most of these are movies that for the most part, I did at least somewhat like them, but they just disappointed me and everything. There's only like maybe one on here that I didn't like at all. But most of these are ones that I think they're okay movies. They just did not live up to my hopes or anything. So I'll go ahead and get started. Number 10 is Terminator Dark Fate. I was really excited for this movie. I think I had myself way too hyped up for it and everything. I was really disappointed. Arnold was only in here for about 30 minutes during the last act of the movie. I really wanted to see more of him in this movie, and him and Sarah Connor together, but we didn't really get that. And when we did, she didn't like him and stuff like that, which still has some pretty humorous moments between the two of them. But I didn't really care too much for this one as much as I had hoped for. I thought it was an alright movie and everything, and it wasn't a terrible movie or anything by any means, but it just wasn't as good and stuff as I was expecting it to be. So Terminator Dark Fate is number 10, and number 9 is Ma. This movie actually didn't really disappoint me extremely bad, but I was somewhat disappointed in it. The movie is mainly good because of Octavia Spencer's performance. I mean, she's absolutely amazing in this movie and everything. It's one of her best performances, but the rest of the cast and characters in the movie, they're just not really that likable, and in some ways you kind of root for Ma because of the fact that these characters are so dumb and stuff. And also I liked how Ma was like a combination of Carrie from Stephen King's Carrie and Annie Wilkes from Misery. I thought it was kind of cool because she's like a combination of them. She's psychotic like Annie Wilkes, but she's sympathetic like Carrie and everything. So I thought Ma was an interesting character and everything, and the movie itself was just alright. Could have been a lot better than it was, but it could have been a lot worse too. It's just one that I felt I was, like I said, the hype on this one was pretty high for me, so I think that's why I was disappointed with it. I don't think it's a terrible movie though. So it's number 9, and number 8 is The Secret Life of Pets 2. This one isn't one that I was extremely excited for, but I wasn't, I wanted to see it and stuff, because I did like the first movie. But this movie, they showed way too much in the trailers and stuff before, and pretty much like almost the whole first act they show, and a good part of the ending of the movie they showed in the trailers. So by the time I actually saw this movie, like only, I'd say maybe 60% of the movie was stuff that I hadn't seen. So I was really disappointed with this movie. I think it could have been a lot better than it was. It was just an okay movie. You kind of knew how things were going to turn out anyway. It was predictable and everything, and like I said, them showing so much in the trailers, it kind of ruined the movie anyway. You kind of knew what was going to happen. But I don't think this one's an absolutely terrible movie, but it's definitely not one that I really loved a lot. I didn't enjoy it as much as the first movie, which was one that I wasn't like extremely big on anyway. I thought it was a decent kids movie, but this one I just felt like was okay too. It could have been a lot better and everything. But so The Secret Life of Pets 2 is number 8, and number 7 is The Prodigy. This was a horror movie that came out in February about a boy that he's kind of crazy. I think he kind of like has some kind of demon thing possessing him. I don't really remember this movie very well, to be honest. It was very forgettable and everything. I was just really disappointed in it. I didn't really know what to expect going in and everything, but I had hoped that it was going to be entertaining. All I knew was it was like a crazy psychotic kid movie. and I was hoping that this was going to be really good, but and it had some good moments. There were like some good kills in here. I think that it also left off where it could have had a sequel that might be even better than it. I don't know if there ever will be. I don't know how good this movie did. I don't think it probably did good enough to get a sequel, but if it did, it left it off enough where I'd be interested to see what happens next, because I think they could make the sequel even better and everything. This could turn into a slasher franchise, but I just thought this movie was okay. It could have been a lot better than it was. It just was disappointing. So, The Prodigy is number 7, and number 6 is Mary Magdalene. This movie is about the woman that joins Jesus on his quest and everything. She's also the one that was there for his resurrection and his death and all that. And this movie was pretty good. I mean, it was very well made and everything. The acting was all good, and it's just the pacing was really slow, and it just was not as good as I was expecting or hoping for. I think that Rooney Mara was good as Mary Magdalene. I think she did a good enough job. And Joaquin Phoenix was pretty good as Jesus and everything, but this movie just was really slow paced, and I didn't really care for it. I had higher hopes for it than I probably should have. I had never seen any trailers or anything. Only thing I knew about this movie was Joaquin Phoenix playing Jesus is the only thing that really made me that interested in seeing this movie and everything. But it's pretty much the story of Jesus told through Mary Magdalene's eyes and everything. I thought it was an okay movie, though. Don't get me wrong. I thought it could have been better. So it's number 6, and number 5 is The Dead Don't Die. This is another one that I had really high expectations on. I had seen the trailer when I went to see, I think it was probably when I went to see Mall. I saw the trailer for it, and I was like, man, that movie looks really good and everything. And then I saw it, and it just really disappointed me. The humor, just the dry deadpan humor, some of it worked and some of it didn't. The cast, some of them seemed like they were really into it, and some of them didn't. I didn't like Steve Buscemi's character. He plays this big racist jerk in it, and he was one of the reasons I wanted to see it, was because I really like Steve Buscemi. But yeah, this movie just could have been a lot better than it was. I think Bill Murray and Adam Driver were decent in it, though. They had good chemistry, and there were parts in it where both of them were really funny, but it just isn't one of my most favorite movies of theirs. It could have just been a lot better with the big cast they had and stuff. Danny Glover, I was really excited because he was in it, because I really like Danny Glover and Selena Gomez, and it had so many big names and everything. Most of them they used for marketing and stuff, and they were all just maybe in a couple of scenes, everything. It just really disappointed me. So The Dead Don't Die is number 5, and number 4 is The Professor, starring Johnny Depp. I know this movie had a lot of bad reviews from critics and stuff, so I should have gone in not expecting as much on this movie. If I would have, but I don't like listening to critics and stuff, especially when it stars people that are my favorite actors, because like most of the time I enjoy movies that most people don't and stuff, like with John Travolta and stuff, and Johnny Depp's one of my favorite actors and everything, and I had heard about the premise of the movie and everything, so I was like, man, this actually sounds like a good movie, and the trailers looked good and everything, and then when I saw it, I was like, man, this movie really is disappointing. I don't know that I'd say it's one of the worst of the year, though. It's not, I don't think it was that bad, but I wouldn't say it's one of the best either. It's kind of meh, and it just really disappointed me. I was hoping that Johnny Depp would be really good in this movie and everything, but it just didn't work as good as I had hoped for, and I think it was an okay movie, but definitely not a great one. And everything. It's definitely not one of Johnny Depp's best of this decade. I wouldn't say it's one of his worst either. He's had worse movies than this, but it's definitely not one of my most favorites, so it's number 4. And number 3 is The Poison Rose. This movie was one that I was extremely excited for. I think I even had it on my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2019 list. This movie stars John Travolta as a detective, and he's trying to solve the mystery of a murder and everything, and he meets all kinds of shady people and stuff throughout the movie, and it stars him, Morgan Freeman, and Brendan Fraser's in here too. And having John Travolta and Brendan Fraser in a movie together just really had me excited, because both of them are two of my favorite actors, and I like Morgan Freeman to an extent. So I was hoping that maybe the three of them would be working together, but John Travolta he does have screen time with both of Morgan Freeman and Brendan Fraser, but they don't all three have it at the same time. And Morgan Freeman did not seem like he was into this movie. He really phoned it in and was terrible in this movie. John Travolta was alright in here. It's not one of his best performances, and everything. Although I will say Brendan Fraser, while I wouldn't say it's like one of his best performances, he was good in here, and he actually seemed like he was having fun in the movie. He didn't seem like he was bored like Morgan Freeman did, and John Travolta did kind of seem like he was bored too. But this movie could have been so much better than it was, but it just really disappointed me. It's one of the biggest disappointments of the year for me, because I was, like I said, I was really anticipating this movie. I'm probably the only person that was, but because I know that John Travolta isn't one that a lot of people like a lot and everything, and a lot of them say he's like Nicolas Cage nowadays. Personally, if Nicolas Cage is like that, then I probably would like most of his movies too, because I really do like John Travolta though. I like most of the movies he does nowadays, even if they're not as good as some of his older ones. I mean, but you can't expect everything an actor's in to be great anyway, but this one just was a big disappointment. Wasn't the biggest disappointment that John Travolta's ever been in, but it definitely is one of them. So it's number 3 for me. And number 2 is the Lego Movie 2, the second part. I loved the first Lego Movie. I thought it was one of the best animated movies of the decade, and I think that I had myself too hyped for this movie, because, well, actually, no, I can't even really say that, because by the time I did see this movie, my hype from the first movie had died down, and I just wasn't really interested in seeing a sequel anymore. And I watched this one hoping that maybe I would still like it a lot and everything, but I didn't. I thought it was an alright movie. It was nowhere near as good as the first. But it's an okay sequel. I mean, I've seen a lot worse animated movie sequels than this one, but I've seen a lot that are better than it too. I mean, you compare this movie to like Frozen 2, which was another highly anticipated sequel, and this movie didn't come anywhere near as good as like Frozen 2 did, where Frozen 2 to me was almost as good as the first movie. This movie is like nowhere near as good as the first movie. But I think Frozen 2 was an okay movie. I mean, Lego Movie 2 was an okay movie, but it felt like it took too long for them to make it, and by the time it came out, it just wasn't as interesting to me. So that's number 2. And the number 1 movie that disappointed me the most this year is Captive State. This movie was one of my most anticipated movies of this year. I think I even had it on that top 10 list, and man, this movie really disappointed me. The story just is all over the place, and it doesn't really, a lot of things don't make sense in here. It was rushed, and everything. It had a good concept, but it just was not executed very well at all. And I just was really disappointed with this movie. I don't really even remember it very well. It was that forgettable. The only thing I really remembered is that it was hard for me to stay awake through this movie because it was so boring. It was like slow paced, and Slow burners don't really bother me as bad nowadays. I actually have kind of gotten to where I enjoy slow burners quite a bit, but this movie was not enjoyable at all. The way it was marketed and stuff, I thought it was going to be like an alien invasion movie that for the first act, and then like the second and third act it'd be them getting ready and trying to take back over from the aliens, but it wasn't anything like the trailers made it out to be to me, and it just wasn't entertaining. So Captive State is number one. It was the biggest disappointing movie of the year for me, and it's easily one of the worst movies of the year for me as well. So but anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what movies disappointed you the most in 2019. I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day, everybody.
This is the song that doesn't end. Yes, it goes on and on, my friend.
That's enough, guys.
Some people started singing it, not knowing what it was, and they'll continue singing it forever just because this is the song that